Hi, I'm Fiona Graham, and I'm going to read to you from Johannes Herwig's debut novel, Bis die Sterne zittern, Until the Stars Tremble, published by Gerstenberg. It was nominated for the German Youth Literature Award. An excerpt appeared in my translation in this reader, produced by the Goethe Institute. A translation grant is guaranteed. The novel, set in late 1930s Leipzig, centres on a group of young people who rebelled against the norms imposed by Hitler's regime. In the passage I'm going to read, the main character, 16-year-old Harrow, gets to know some of the boys in this group after they've rescued him from a beating by the Hitler Youth. There was no need to think about which of the two cinemas I should head for first. Heinrich's shock of hair gleamed, fair as a bushel of barley ears, from the pavement outside the Union Theatre on Pegauer Straße. Approaching slowly, I had time to observe him more closely. Again, I was startled by how different he looked when he wasn't covered in coal dust. White knee-length socks, chestnut-coloured laced shoes, lederhosen shorts, a red and black checked shirt. The transformation was impressive. He'd rolled his shirt sleeves up too, which I found reassuring. He gave me a smile as wide as a window. "There you are. Everything all right? On holiday, are you?" Squaring my shoulders, I nodded. A handful of other lads gave me the once-over, and I could tell from their expressions that I was the only one who had had summer holidays. I swiftly changed the subject. "Harrow," I said, holding out my hand at random to one of the boys in the circle, an angular, sunburned lad who'd been there a few days ago. His handshake made me yelp inside, but I kept my cool. "Willi," he said, continuing to observe me in a not unfriendly manner. "One of our canoeists," said Heinrich. "Here's the other." He laid his paw, like an enormous spider, on the shoulder of the lad next to Willi. The lad grinned. "Richard," he said. We shook hands. It went better this time. I was prepared. The round of introductions was interrupted when Heinrich started to laugh. He laughed and smacked his right fist into his left palm with a sound like a belly flop into the swimming baths. "I don't believe it! Women in shorts! Whatever next? A woman chancellor?" I followed his gaze. A girl with a dark brown bob, the ends curling around her eyes, was coming up the street. She wore an expression that demanded respect, although she was only my age at most. She looked as though she knew just what she wanted, and as if she knew that others knew it as well, just from the way she looked. But it wasn't so much her body language that grabbed the attention. What grabbed the attention was an item of clothing. A pair of breeches, short breeches, lederhosen like the ones that Heinrich wore, which gave him quite a rakish air. The girl came closer and went straight up to him. I was startled, thinking she was going to hit him, but instead she stopped half a metre away and gave him a hug. "Terrific! They look terrific on you, my old lederhosen," said Heinrich, continuing to hold the girl by her shoulders and gazing at her. "Can I introduce you? This is Hilma," he said, finally turning to me. "Harrow." I held out my hand. The girl lifted her chin till it was above the level of her eyes. "Harrow," she repeated, rather as if she doubted whether that was really my name. I nodded and gestured towards Heinrich. "We're neighbours," I said. I didn't quite know what that was supposed to explain, but nothing else occurred to me. "Neighbours," she repeated, tilting her head. "Fine. Well then, welcome." A handshake followed the delay. Then she tugged at Heinrich's sleeve. "Come on, let's go for a walk. There's something I've got to tell you." And I was suddenly alone in the circle. A slight boy in a white sailor collar took pity on me just before it became embarrassing. "I'm Edgar," he said simply. "What's brought you here, Harrow? Is it just that you're neighbours? Or is there something else? I scraped my foot over the asphalt, stuck out my lower lip and looked into Edgar's eyes. They looked sad or friendly, depending on the light. I'm always out in the street anyway, I said. It's always a good thing to have new friends, isn't it? Edgar's nod was no more than a breath of wind. And you? I'm at the bottom of the pile at work. Dad was in the Communist Party, and my foreman takes that out on me. I have to give him the Nazi salute each time he enters or leaves the workshop. If I'm not quick enough, there's overtime, that sort of thing. He twisted the clasp on his belt, its smooth metal glittering in the sun. Just for me, of course, not for the others. So that's one of the reasons. How does it work with apprenticeships, I asked. Any chance of getting a placement somewhere else? Sometimes there is, said Edgar, but not for me. Just elementary school, lousy marks, no contacts, and my parents are communists. He flicked his fingers against the gleaming metal clasp. What's the expression? Just be thankful you've got anything at all. You're still at school, are you? I nodded, burying my hands in my pockets. But that's fine, said Edgar. That's great. That's something to be thankful for, isn't it? School's a pain in the arse, I said after a brief pause. Edgar raised his eyebrows. He was very slight indeed. Is there any way you could pack it in, your apprenticeship? I asked, changing the subject again. Edgar laughed, but not in a way that made me feel like an idiot. No chance, he said. Dad's on benefits, but that's all. Mum works at Hassag, but the pay's rotten, and who knows much longer she'll have her job for. And there's my little sister. No. No chance. We need my apprenticeship allowance. I don't know if my face showed enough understanding or not. Distant lightning ran over the red-tiled roofs on the houses opposite. The thunderstorm was still undecided.